Al Pacino's acting career has now spanned over 5 decades. He has starred in over 60 films. His electrified and intense acting style is legendary. Francis Ford Coppola said of him after witnessing his first film, Panic in Needle Park, he said, "His intelligence is what I noted first. This striking magnetic quality, this smouldering ambience." Going through Pacino's filmography, so many classics, so many memorable performances. Dog Day Afternoon, Serpico, Carlito's Way, the seminal Scarface where Pacino's performance attacks the screen, an amazing performance that is both comic and tragic. But it's not all gangsters and criminals. Scent of a Woman netted Pacino his first Best Actor Oscar, playing a blind, irritable and medically retired army officer. And the cult classic Serpico, my personal favourite, of which it has been said, if the Godfather made him a star, then Serpico kept him there. Within all of these roles, Pacino brings an undeniable, vital energy to his performances, and a depth unmatched by many of his peers, and he still does today. Look at his performance in Scorsese's The Irishman. It seems age has not removed that vital energy from his acting. But what are Pacino's most overlooked and underrated films? What are the films that are more deserving of praise and that have flown under the radar and been forgotten? The first film on this list is Glengarry, Glen Ross. Is the film that underrated? I'd say so. Pacino, he did get an Oscar nomination for his role, I suppose, and it has built up a cult classic reputation over the years. But this film is just so good. So yeah, it seriously deserves more attention. Glengarry Glen Ross tells the story of 4 real estate salesmen who are forced into a selling competition by their head office. First prize is a Cadillac, second is a set of steak knives, and third and fourth prize are the sack. This adaptation of David Mamet's hit play is packed full of amazing performances from its star cast. Along with Al Pacino, we have Jack Lemmon, who is amazing as Shelley Levine, Alec Baldwin with his brass balls, and Kevin Spacey, Ed Harris, Jonathan Pryce and Alan Arkin all giving performances of their lives and clearly enjoying the dialogue written by American playwright David Mamet. The New York Times said of the film, "The pleasure of this unique film comes in watching superb actors dine on Mamet's pungent language like the feast it is," which is a great way of putting it. Pacino's performance as Ricky Roma, one of a group of shady real estate agents whose directive from management is to ABC, always be closing, is in direct contrast to his performance in Scent of a Woman, which came out in the same year, 1992. Pacino was nominated for Best Actor Oscar in Scent of a Woman and also as supporting actor in Glengarry Glen Ross. He won the Best Actor Oscar for Scent of a Woman, but Pacino's performance in Glengarry Glen Ross is much more restrained, none of the ostentatious whooping that we see in Scent.
This is such a crock of shit.
Pacino's Ricky Roma is the top guy, the most successful real estate salesman in the office, and watching Pacino trying to sell a real estate deal to Jonathan Pryce, yet saying nothing about it, a conversation where Pacino's main aim is to close the deal, but never mentions anything about the sale, is a masterclass in dialogue from David Mamet and a masterclass in restrained acting from Pacino. Second film on the list we have Scarecrow, a 1973 film about 2 vagabonds who form an unlikely friendship and who travel together to California with their aim to start a car wash business. They get into adventures. It's a road movie, buddy movie of sorts. Pacino was big news at the time, as this performance was just after The Godfather being released the year before and also Serpico being released in the same year. And although the film flopped at the box office, it won the Cannes Film Festival and was well received by the critics. Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian described the film as a freewheeling masterpiece, describing Hackman and Pacino as giving the performances of their lives. It's a film that doesn't get discussed much by analysts, possibly because the director, Jerry Skatzberg, is not that renowned when compared to other film directors such as Francis Ford Coppola and Sidney Lumet, who Pacino was also working with at the time. Nevertheless, Scarecrow demands your attention as it is one of the most emblematic films of the decade. The fountain scene where Pacino has an emotional breakdown and picks up a child and starts to walk into the fountain, much to the distress of the kid's mother, is a very powerful scene. Pacino's acting in this scene is incredible and inspired the actor Cillian Murphy to become an actor. He quotes Scarecrow as his favourite film, and this scene is what made him want to get into acting, he says. Third on the list, we have 2015's Danny Collins, where Pacino plays Danny Collins, an old rock star who finds a letter written to him by John Lennon, his longtime idol. Unbeknown to Danny, his idol, John Lennon, read an interview that he had done and wrote him a letter, suggesting he give him a call. But Danny didn't get the note for decades, and he wonders now whether he would have gone down a different path musically and personally had he received it back then. He then decides to change his life. He reconnects with his illegitimate son and supports his family through hard times, etc. The film is inspired by a true incident of English folk singer Stephen Tilston's discovery that Lennon had written to him in 1971. The film is solid. It's a well-told story with great performances. Granted, it's nothing we haven't seen before, it's not breaking the mold, but it's the best film with Pacino in a starring role for a long time. The Telegraph said of the film, "A hugely effective film. This is what sets Danny Collins above other films of its type. Its awareness of the gap between the narratives we fantasize for ourselves and the ones we live out, although we have no cause to doubt the legitimacy of Danny's existential crisis. Pacino and his director never indulge in special pleading on his behalf. In fact, they go the other way, driving home how Danny's self-improvement regimen is mostly smoke and mirrors." Fourth on the list we have And Justice for All, a 1979 courtroom drama directed by Norman Jewison. Pacino plays defense attorney Arthur Kirkland, who finds himself in a crisis of conscience and ethics when he is forced to defend a judge who he thinks is guilty. Pacino once again delivers a high-voltage performance. The film includes a well-known scene in which Pacino's character yells in court, "You're out of order, you're out of order, the whole trial is out of order, they're out of order." Pacino was once again nominated for an Oscar for his performance. Director Norman Jewison said of this film's lead actor, "It's an unusual role for Al Pacino. In past films like Dog Day Afternoon and even Serpico, he's been the eccentric, cut off from a sane world. This time, he's the most rational person in the picture. It's everyone around him and his environment which is bizarre." Interestingly, although when Al Pacino was cast in the film, he had also been considering the lead role in Kramer vs. Kramer, which he turned down in order to do this movie. Ironically, when Pacino was Oscar nominated for Best Actor Academy Award, it was Dustin Hoffman who ended up winning the Oscar for Kramer vs. Kramer for the role Pacino originally turned down. And finally, we have his performance in Warren Beatty's 1990 film Dick Tracy. While I'm not that keen on the film personally, Al Pacino's performance as crime boss Big Boy Caprice is a real scene stealer. He comes across like a manic version of Tony Montana from Scarface and Michael Corleone from The Godfather. Although Al Pacino had his own slicked down hairstyle, the makeup artists had to add a fake chin, a fake nose, fake upper lip and a mole on his cheeks and plugs behind his ears to make them stick out in order to turn him into Big Boy Caprice. Pacino even was nominated for a Best Supporting Oscar for the role, which I believe is the first time anyone had ever been nominated for a comic book role, years before Christopher Nolan's Batman films and Joaquin Phoenix's recent Joker Oscar triumph. Well, there's 5 of what I believe to be underrated, overlooked Al Pacino films. Did I miss anything out? And what's your favourite Al Pacino movie? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. It is much appreciated. See you later.